Hey, everybody. Thank you all for coming. And thank you to everyone who's watching the replay. Appreciate you guys. Today's topic is going to be a lot of fun. I just shared out a video on all the things that I made with oregano. And this live is a little bit of a follow up to that because what I'm sharing this evening is an oregano monograph. And I'm also going to do a book review. And we're going to talk about this book here. The Cure is in the Cupboard. So I'm looking forward to this. How's everybody doing? Hi, Ann. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. So just to touch on a couple of administrative things. This Herbal Study Hall, we welcome new herbalists. We welcome experienced herbalists. It's a place where we just all come together. My name's Tammy, and I'm currently working towards getting my registered herbalist designation as my ultimate goal. I am attending the East-West School of Herbal Medicine. You can find out more about that over at herbwhisperer.com. And every week on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central Time, our goal is to chat about herbal concepts. We might dive into herbal monographs or talk about specific herbs like we're doing this evening. We might talk about and share some herbal remedies, and just kind of some of our herbal concepts might include a little bit from traditional Chinese medicine, from Ayurveda, maybe some information stemming from our native community. Herbalism has been going on for thousands of years in this world by all kinds of different people. And I just think it's fun to look at everything everybody else has done and learn from them. And as I go through this is like a study hall. If you've ever been in college, high school, you know, where you all come together and you study, that's what this is meant to be. Totally open forum. Hey, Ginger, thanks for coming. All right, now I got to say my disclaimer like I do each week before we get started. Just a quick reminder that this live is for educational purposes only. I'm not a physician, and you need to make sure that you get advice from a qualified healthcare provider. I'm not hosting this live in any way to diagnose, treat, or replace medical advice from a qualified practitioner. Herbalism can be supportive, but everybody's body and health history are different. So just make sure you talk with a doctor or another licensed professional before trying any new herbs, especially if you're pregnant, nursing, taking medications, or managing a chronic medical condition. Hey, Troy, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Right. Now, my next question is, what's everybody got in their teacup tonight? I'm just drinking good old water. How about everybody else? And tell me in the chat all the herby things that you've done since last week. I tried to take notes about what everybody said they were working on to see how things progressed for them. But last week when we talked about some herbs that you all were looking into, mugwort came up a couple of times, and I'm probably going to chat about that next week. It was on my list for tonight, but then I just jumped down this oregano rabbit hole so bad that I didn't want to jump out and go talk about multiple other herbs at the same time. Oh, you're having weather there. Stay safe. I hope it's a mild storm that just brings the perfect amount of water so that God waters your garden for you. That's what I'm hoping for you. We did have some folks, I think, Anne, you were working on a chestnut bark oil for veins. You had commented about that. I think that is cool. Looks like some folks wanted to hear more about, for future lives, chatting about the different Tulsi basils that are out there. Oh, lemongrass. I have lemongrass. I need to harvest also. Somebody brought that up. Elecampane, ashwagandha, which we did a live on ashwagandha before. So want to encourage you all, if you have any interest in ashwagandha, go check out that. And then the dit.jiao herbs in TCM. That's like a topical ointment for bruises and things like that. All right. So I have a monograph that I prepared. And again, just as a reminder, I want to encourage everybody to think about making your own monograph. You can use a template and just fill it in, because as you go through it, it's going to help you to learn more about whatever the herb is. And I just think it's a great way to gain some knowledge there. Now, I might freeze up when I share my screen, so I'm going to go to the live on my phone too, so I can see if I'm frozen and what's going on in the chat. Bear with me. Make sure that's turned down. Don't forget to give me the thumbs up when you come in too. Okay, skip. All right. There we go. I can see you guys. All right. Now I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to jump right into the Oregano monograph. See if I freeze. Hold on. Almost there. I need to get another laptop so that this goes much more smoothly. Hey, Nancy. Good to see you. And hey, Anne. Thank you for coming. All right. Can you all see the screen? Oh, I don't think it froze up. Oh, yeah, I am. Hold on. Maybe if I come back over here. Am I froze up? Okay, good. I'm not. That's weird. All right. So let's just jump right in. I've got my phone in front of me so I can follow the chat while I do this. Okay, so oregano, also called Origanum vulgare. I do want to point out that the marjoram is called Oregano marjoram or something like this. Origanum marjoram. And so there is a difference. Origanum vulgare is a largely referenced medicinal well, it's cooking oregano. It's the same oregano as the one that you cook with, but just kind of pointing out that there's a difference there. And I also want to point out that if you purchase oregano at the store, chances are you could be purchasing Origanum marjoram or Origanum majorum, I think it is. So there is a difference. It's best to grow your oregano and harvest it and use that one. Make sure I'm not frozen. Okay, yay me. Okay. Now the oregano is in the Lamiaceae family, which is the mint family. So all the other herbs in this family include thyme, sage, basil, rosemary, and other aromatic square-stemmed herbs. So keep that in mind. They have a square stem. Oregano itself is a very hardy. I can contest to this because I have an oregano plot that is just, it's been here the 4 years that we've lived here. And I could tell it had been here many years prior to that. So very hardy, aromatic, perennial, and it grows in bushy clumps, 1 to 2 feet tall. I shared in the video our oregano plot, well, one of them, that was about, 2 feet tall, maybe 18 inches tall. And somebody in the comments reached out to me and said, hey, my oregano is not like that. It falls over. It doesn't stand up like that. And that's probably due to the age. And I say that because I have another oregano plot up by the house that's next to another oregano bed, and it grows outside of the bed actually. And I let it grow. I had planted some in a smaller pot, and it jumped the pot and it lives on, and I let it. But that oregano does plop over. And I noticed that some of the stems from last year are starting to stand up like they are in the older bed. Hey, Nancy, good to see you. So keep that in mind. So again, square, the stems are a little hairy, which is typical of the mint family. Little small leaves. They have a very recognizable, leaf on them. Though I have to say they do look a lot like marjoram. So you want to make sure you're growing what you think you're growing. The flowers are a tiny pink purple. If you wait though, and they end up, over maturing, the flowers start to get lighter and lighter. At least mine do. They start to end up looking like lavender to whitish almost. The root system's very fibrous, and it spreads. So you can, like in my older bed, I could go out there to the older bed and I could cut into the soil and cut out a clump of the oregano. So I got me a clump of oregano, soil on the bottom, plant up top, and I could go plant that and it's going to grow somewhere else. And I'm going to try that in my herbs in the woods. I can't wait to see how it does, because this plant is also very cold hardy and drought tolerant from zone 4 through 9. So huge range of zones that this grows in, which is just wonderful. And it does say, when I did the research right here, that it prefers well-drained, sandy or loamy soil. But y'all, mine's in clay and rock. So I'm just going to say, give it a chance, see how it does. Put some other soil on top or something. But like I said, it jumped out of the little container I had it in, and it grows right in the ground that has not been treated, any additional soil added to that or anything. Hey, Jennifer, thanks for coming. And BNUS Odyssey, good to see you all. So the parts that you're going to use medicinally include the leaves and the flowers. Ideal time for harvesting would just be right before flowering or at a flower's peak. Not like, when it's all, I think I showed it in my video, when you've waited too long and it's, looking like a dusty mess. Yeah, you don't want to wait too long, but just before flowering or flowering. And I would even suggest, if you really like using oregano, to have a couple different plots, because my one plot down the hill is in direct sunlight and it matures faster. My plot that's up the hill is not in so much direct sunlight, and it's great because I have the oregano going on in 2 different phases, and I love that. All right, let's move on to talk about the constituents. The main constituent, you can see I put it in bold here, is carvacrol. That is a huge constituent of this plant. And I've got a little note here, but I have so many research studies that I was able to find, because one of the challenges when you're looking into this herb is actually finding a lot of really good documentation on it. So we're going to be doing this review here in just a few minutes. After I get through this, I'm going to chat about this book, and I have an extra one. So I'm going to be giving one of these away, and we'll do that later. And I should have pulled up the StreamYard giveaway tool, and I didn't do that yet, so hopefully I don't have any problem. Okay, so we'll go through that later. Other ingredients include thymol, cymene, terpenine, linalool, borneol. Now listen, in herbal medicine, we use plants. We don't use constituents. Scientists do, though. So if you are, and there's another reason that you want to know about constituents. For example, I know thymol is one of the main supporting constituents in thyme. So that helps me to understand, oh, it's got thymol in it. It's going to carry some of the same qualities as that. I also know that linalool is one of the main constituents of lavender. So that tells me a little bit about this plant just because I understand these constituents. Now, I can't say that I know as much about cymene, terpenine, or borneol. That's okay. One of these days, I probably will. Now, the phenolic acids present include rosmarinic acid, and you guessed it, that's also present in rosemary, which is strongly anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. It also contains caffeic acid. Flavonoids include apigenin, luteolin, and quercetin. And we all know all the great things about quercetin, I think. Anybody not know about, if you don't know about quercetin, go look it up. You can take it as a supplement. Some of your plants with the highest quercetin content are going to be your green leafy vegetables. So many great things about quercetin. Thymol is good for ridding mites and beetles. Oh, very cool. Yeah, some of these aromatic plants make great little pest control supporters. Tannins are mild, and there is some astringency. It also supports gut and respiratory applications. So note on the thymol. Thymol is commonly used by beekeepers to inhibit varroa destructor mites that parasitize and weaken bee colonies. So Anne, yes, you just called out that ability of that. So Heather's not here over at Milk and Honey Heritage Farms, but I thought she might find that interesting. Maybe when she watches the replay, she'll see that. Vitamins and minerals. Oregano contains a high amount of vitamin K, which is awesome. We all need vitamin K. Vitamin K helps your body to make sure that you don't have sclerosis in your arteries, your plaque buildup. It helps for your calcium to know that it needs to go into the veins into the bones and not into your vessels. So vitamin K is awesome, and it's high in that. Hey, Treasure Hunter Neil, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Also vitamin E, all those tocopherols in there. Vitamin A precursors. So your carotenoids. Vitamin C, it has modest amounts of vitamin C also. It also contains the minerals calcium, magnesium, iron, manganese, zinc, and potassium. Anybody have any questions so far? I'm going to pause and get a drink of water while y'all tell me if you have any questions. All right, I'm going to move on to energetics. Oregano is a warm and drying herb. Its taste is acrid, which could also be like the same as pungent. And it also has a bitter flavor to it. And you know what that means? Anytime you see bitter, as far as a flavor goes, that tells you that it's going to have a positive impact on your digestive system. Okay. Well, if it's good for you, like not just any, it indicates it's going to impact your digestive system. Maybe we should leave the word positive out because, you know, there could be some stuff out there you're not supposed to have that is bitter. The channels that it works through, and this is like, from my knowledge, it's something that you consider in traditional Chinese medicine because, you know, we believe the whole body is connected through these channels. So the lung, spleen, and stomach channel for any other TCM studying folks out there. So moving on to actions. It's an aromatic stimulant. It's anti-parasitic, carminative, expectorant. It's a diaphoretic. So in other words, it encourages you to sweat. It's a mild diaphoretic. It's a digestive warming herb. It's also immune boosting. And in vitro research has indicated that it is immune boosting by way of increasing phagocytosis, which is you got these like Pac-Mans in your bloodstream, and these little Pac-Mans go around eating up, you know, toxins and cells that maybe have exceeded their lifespan, so they're ready to be, you know, disposed of, and that's how our body disposes of them. Sends out these phagocytes called, and they eat up all the stuff. So it actually increases phagocytosis, and it supports enhanced immune surveillance by encouraging the work that your white blood cells are doing. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Also, it's an emmenagogue, and it's not necessarily, well, I guess a little bit it could be used for that, but it's good to know that if any herb is an emmenagogue, that means it stimulates delayed menstruation. And if any herb is a emmenagogue, that also tells you anybody that's pregnant or breastfeeding, it's something that they should not be taking. In this case, oregano is, you know, it's a food. It's a food spice. It doesn't mean they can't have it at all, but you wouldn't want to take it in medicinal quantities. All right, now moving on to the TCM actions. This herb disperses wind, cold. So, I mean, it fights colds and flus. Disperses wind, cold means that it helps to get rid of a cold at the beginning of it. At the beginning of a cold, it's going to be very helpful to eliminate that virus. It means a lot more than that, actually, but I'm not going to get into all the traditional Chinese medicine details. But I'm going to give you a little bit of it because who knows, one of these days we might want to do a TCM, you know, Herbal Study Hall. And I'm still in school for that. So I'll probably feel more comfortable doing that later down the road. For now, I just want to introduce everybody to all of these terms so that you start to get more comfortable with them. It transforms dampness. So dampness means a lot of things in traditional Chinese medicine. It does not just mean phlegm, but in this case, we know it's an expectorant. So we're going to, from that, what you can understand is it's going to help as an expectorant, okay? It moves qi, which is like energy. Qi is said to flow along with your blood, and it's like the energy that moves with your blood. They kind of work together, according to TCM. And it says especially in the middle burner. So in other words, it helps with digestion. It opens the lungs, back to that expectorant thing, and it promotes sweating. And again, that's, one of the key things. If you ever get sick, like with a cold or a flu or a virus, something like that, one of the best things you can do is try to sweat it out right away. So it helps with that. Now, a little bit about Ayurveda. Just for anybody here who is also studying Ayurvedic herbalism, in addition to Western or traditional Chinese medicine, it reduces kapha, reduces vata in small amounts, and it can aggravate your pitta if it's used excessively. So some traditional uses. It's great for cold, damp stagnation, a sluggish digestion, a wet cough, microbial imbalance, parasites. So think like, your viral cold flu, delayed menses or polycystic ovarian syndrome, any fungal infections. Did I have antifungal up there? Because if I didn't, I need to add it because it's a huge antifungal. Yeah, hold on, guys. I have to edit. Huge antifungal properties, which is one of the things I love. It's great with that. Okay, scrolling back down. And also bacterial infections. So oregano is very warm, so you get rid of parasites as well. Absolutely, it does. I can say I have seen evidence of that, of it eliminating parasites. To be specific, liver flukes. Don't take my word for it, though. Do your own research. And the person that had these would not let me share a picture. You got to trust me on that one. All right. Oregano's hot and dispersive nature makes it ideally suited when someone has symptoms of cold, damp, and stagnant digestion. Symptoms of this might include slow stomach emptying. So, maybe bloating, and you feel like maybe you are slow to have a bowel movement even. A heavy feeling in the gut long after eating that includes flatulence, belching, and that person might also have a thick white coating on their tongue, complain of feeling frequently bloated, and like I mentioned already, slow transit time between bowel movements. I want to say before we go too much further on, because we're going to talk about some other stuff here in just a minute, but when I think about oregano usage, this isn't a tonic unless you're just, incorporating it into your food, unless you're using small amounts of seasoning in the food you eat. You would not want to be using any of the proposed, methods of taking oregano in an herbal fashion for a long period of time. It would be short-term use, okay? Just kind of throwing that out there. In traditional Chinese medicine, hey, Jamie, thanks for coming. In traditional Chinese medicine, exterior wind cold with congestion, it would treat that. So exterior wind cold with congestion, we're talking about like your cold and flu kind of symptoms. Damp obstruction in the middle burner. Your middle burner, you have like, in TCM, you have like 3 burners. You have an upper burner, a middle burner, and a lower burner. So think like upper burner, middle burner, and then lower burner, like, below the table. And the middle burner, that's going to be like where your liver gallbladder area is, okay? So there again, that term damp obstruction in the middle burner is just kind of agreeing with the Western herbalism use of using this for digestive health. Chi stagnation with digestive sluggishness. And in Ayurveda, they would say it clears kapha congestion, stimulates Agni, reduces ama, which ama is like toxins, and supports respiratory and digestive fire. So you've got 3 different kinds of herbalism here. And they all have different ways of pretty much kind of sort of saying in a sort of way the same thing. Moving on, I'm going to spend a little time here on safety considerations, and then we're going to go to the preparation and types, and we're also going to talk about some clinical and non-clinical trials that have been conducted with oregano. Okay, safety considerations. I mentioned this earlier. You want to avoid this during pregnancy and breastfeeding. When it's in concentrated amounts, it doesn't mean no Italian food while you're pregnant. That would be crazy. Food use of oregano is absolutely fine. But essential oils and strong infusions would not be fine. And they also, essential oils and strong infusions are not recommended for any minors, any children, any babies, none of that. Also avoid if there's an allergy to plants. If you have any allergies to plants in the mint family, the Lamiaceae family, then you wouldn't want to take it then. Strong infusions or essential oils may also irritate somebody who has gastritis, colitis, or ulcers, and concentrated preparations may increase metabolic burden and should be taken with care in those with kidney or liver disease. But one of the studies that I was reading was actually with patients that had kidney disease. So that's kind of interesting. Drug interactions. So you want to avoid, and I put some reasons here, avoid medicinal doses if you're on blood thinners because it increases a bleeding risk. Avoid combining with antibiotic drugs, or excuse me, anti-diabetic drugs because it could cause hypoglycemia. And mild hypotensive effects may potentiate blood pressure medications. Oregano's immune stimulating properties may counteract immunosuppressive therapy, so beware of that. Rare cases of liver irritation have been reported with oregano when combined with hepatotoxic drugs, and that's like Tylenol, okay? That increases your risk of liver irritation, so keep that in mind. Herb interactions. So likewise, you want to use caution when you're combining these herbs with those that thin the blood, like garlic, meadowsweet, ginger, turmeric, ginkgo, high-dose cinnamon, and willow bark. And it may cause GI irritation if it's combined with wormwood, rue, strong mint oil, or high doses of cayenne pepper. All right, now let's talk about preparation type, dosage, and frequency. And again, this is for educational purposes only. Do your own research. Make sure you talk with any physicians before you try anything new if you meet those criteria, in particular of anybody who's on medications or being followed to manage a chronic condition. As a tea, you can infuse 1 to 2 teaspoons. You would want to steep that for 10 to 15 minutes. So you basically boil your water, pour it over your tea, or pour it over your herbs, cover it, and then let it sit there for 10 to 15 minutes. You could drink that up to 2 to 3 times daily for short periods of time. Just a side note here, I prefer the flowers for that, but leaves are okay, and they're stronger. So, just kind of keeping that in mind. There is some information here for creating this as a tincture. I do not support tincture use of oregano. I'm including it here for my notes. And I probably need to add a note there that says I do not support that. I just think oregano is so strong that you don't need to take it as a tincture. I don't know. It's very strong. As a syrup or an oxymel, which I made one of those in my video, if you haven't seen that yet, take 1 to 3 times daily, just a teaspoonful. I need to edit that too. And steam inhalation, you could add a handful of really hot water, get your hot water, add a handful of oregano in there, stir it up, and then, breathe over it, breathe the air, don't burn yourself. But that's how you do a steam. And that would be great for any like colds, flus. But do keep in mind it's contraindicated for asthma or sensitive lungs. Now, also, as a food, just kind of adding that note here, include culinary amounts in food for long-term tonic use, and that's fine. I'm going to make 2 little edits here real quick. I'll say 1 tablespoon. And then up here, not preferred method. Let me say, I should probably say due to strength. Oops, of oregano. And everything that I read supported that. I kind of felt that way already, but everything I read supported to not use oregano as a tincture. And oregano is one of those herbs that's really hard to find in a lot of books. I mean, it really is, which is why I thought I would share this one. I have so many herb books, and when there's mention of oregano, it's very limited. So here's some different studies, different things that I read. This was a great one about your immune system. If I have anybody in the chat that is a member of the channel, or who has ever given me like a super chat or something, because I know of a couple people who've given me lots of super chats and they're not members at the same time. But you all, if you email me, I will send you this oregano monograph so that you can have it for your own records. Happy to do that. All right, now let's talk about some of the non-clinical trials and the clinical trials. Yep. Oregano oil for cooking. Yeah, that's fine for cooking. Again, we're not talking about essential oil. This is where there's a big line to be drawn. Essential oil is a completely different beast than an infused oregano oil. And it's funny because I was calling my infused oregano oil of oregano. But oil of oregano, if you buy it and it's called oil of oregano, keep in mind what they're probably talking about is an essential oregano oil that's been diluted in a carrier oil. So they've taken an essential oil, they put it in a carrier oil. When you infuse your oregano oil, it's still strong, but it's different. It's not as strong as your essential oregano oil or your oil of oregano that you would purchase somewhere else. This book, for example, all the great things it says, it's talking about essential oil and oil of oregano. I used to have some friends that were Italian, and I know their mom would infuse oregano oil to cook with. I think it's like a thing for, Italian families. So, you're very welcome. Okay, so now let's talk about non-clinical and clinical trials. The first one, I just want to kind of put this out there. There are not a lot of clinical trials available. Most of the trials that have been done on oregano are non-clinical trials, meaning that they have not been done in humans. They've largely been done in vitro. So here's some example or animal studies. Here we go. Non-clinical carvacrol mechanisms. Looking at carvacrol and chronic kidney disease and the gut-kidney axis, a 2026 mechanistic study exploring carvacrol's therapeutic potential in chronic kidney disease and gut-kidney interactions. The big thing about this study was that carvacrol, since it's one of oregano's primary volatile compounds, that paper basically spoke to the evidence for its strong anti-inflammatory effects that it has on the entire system and the microbiome modulating effects that it has on gut health and how that could impact our kidney disease patients. And kidney disease, that is an area of research that I used to work in for many, many years, more than a decade. And those patients are so very sick. So I like that they're looking into things like that. 2025, this was a clinical trial. It was a 4-month observational clinical study evaluating a topical oregano-based gel for periodontal disease. A couple things I want to mention. Notice there's a name here, Smart Gel, OV, or Origanum vulgare. This was not just oregano oil. Okay. This was a topical oregano-based gel for periodontal disease. But I think it's great just to mention, and I'm sure the antimicrobial effects, the fact that it has thymol in it, and the linalool even. Think about, like thyme. Thyme is great in like a mouthwash, but it kind of goes to show you there could be, some use there. But otherwise, beware of just trying to do this on your own, because oregano is a very warm herb. Used by itself, it could probably be a little hard on the sensitive tissues that are in your mouth. But that does speak to the antimicrobial action that it has. Here's another one, pharmacokinetics herb-drug interaction trial, evaluating oregano pharmacokinetics and drug interactions. Great study. It was a registered clinical trial investigating how oregano affects drug metabolism and potential herb-drug interactions. And the reason that this is important, and this was done, look at here, it's over on clinicaltrials.gov, so you can go check it out there. It's the first formal pharmacokinetic trial examining oregano's interaction with CYP metabolized medications. So that's one. And it just kind of goes to speak to, I put a lot of drug herb interactions up above, but that's where it came from. Okay, sorry, I had to get myself out of a commercial on my phone. I hope they're not hitting you all up too much. All right, so here's another one, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, using a whole herb extract, because when I was looking for clinical and non-clinical trials, it was a little challenging to find the whole herb. So that's what I was looking for. And there's this one, Origanum vulgare, from plant to 3D printed gummies with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. So it used the whole herb extract. The findings were rosmarinic acid dominant at 47.76%, strong antioxidant activity, which means that it had high levels of free radical scavenging capabilities. It was a significant anti-inflammatory activity, so that was proven. And here's a link for that. And here's another one. I hope you guys are enjoying all of these research. I like I said, I jumped down the rabbit hole quite a bit. So 2021 study looking into antimicrobial and gut microbiome. Again, whole herb extract. The antimicrobial activity of Origanum vulgare correlated with gastrointestinal perturbation in patients with metabolic syndrome. So in other words, looking at patients with metabolic syndrome and examining the antimicrobial activity of oregano as far as it relates to GI disturbance. So that's what this was all about. It demonstrated antimicrobial activity, explored relationships between oregano intake and your GI microbiome and those changes that might occur, specifically in a subset of patients that have metabolic syndrome. What it showed was that it's useful for your gut health, or gut terrain, it called it, and microbiome modulation. Any questions or comments? Oh, no. Oh, Anne, that's wonderful to hear. That is great. That would be my first go-to also. Oh no, ads cut. Okay, if you want me to repeat anything, BNUS Odyssey, just drop it in the chat. I'm happy to repeat anything. All right, so moving on to antioxidant, antibacterial, and enzyme inhibition. So here's a study regarding Origanum vulgare and looking into antioxidant, antibacterial, and enzyme inhibition activities using the whole herb. So the findings were full phytochemical profile of the whole herb, strong antioxidant activity proven, antibacterial activity proven, enzyme inhibition actions relevant to metabolic and inflammatory pathways were shown. And then Carvacrol inhibiting HIV-1 fusion into target cells. This again is an in vitro study. If anybody doesn't know what that means, it means most of the time you've got a little petri dish here and they will put cells in there, and then literally they get a dropper and they measure under microscope a drop, and they document. And see, I'm going from like years ago. I mean, their microscopes could be amazing now, but anyhow, they put a dropper of the oregano in there, maybe a drop or two. It's pre-measured though. They write it out in their protocol for the trial, for the non-clinical trial. And then they will evaluate the immediate changes, and they'll also time it, maybe like 1 minute post, 2 minutes post that dropper, 3 minutes post, 1 day post, whatever. Depends on how they write their study. But they go back, they again look at it under a microscope, and they examine any changes. And I'm really kind of lumping that up because there's a lot of different scientific methods that they can use in there to determine changes. It's not all visual through a microscope. Okay, anyways, back to this. So Carvacrol blocks, it blocks HIV-1 and SIV viral fusion with host cells. So it was shown to do that. And it does that by cholesterol depletion from the viral envelope. So think about this for a minute. In these viruses, a virus, let's say here's a virus. I don't know, maybe here's a virus. Maybe he looks crazy and he's got legs. I don't know. Anyhow, this virus is what it is. And it has typically like a liposomal casing around it. And if you see this cholesterol depletion, it's kind of breaking down like this little fatty sort of thing. It's breaking it apart. Like picture a bug with an exoskeleton. In other words, cricket, or I don't know, some other bug that has its hard shell on the outside, whereas our bones are on the inside. That's what exoskeleton is. So picture a bug like that, and you take its shell off. Well, yeah, it's going to die. So that's how it kills it. Resistant mutations identified, confirming the mechanism. And they also confirm that it cooperates additively with antiretroviral therapy. So in other words, it's a good combination to include with other antiretroviral therapies. Again, that was an in vitro study. We really need more clinical trials with oregano, but nobody's going to make a whole lot of money. You know who pays for our clinical trials? The drug company. The drug company that's making the drug pays for the clinical trial. They have to. They have to prove to the FDA that it's going to work. We don't have a drug company that's making oregano. So if they ever do decide to do a clinical trial, it's going to be on an extract or one of the constituents, probably Carvacrol. So there'll be like a pharmaceutical company come along, figure out how to extract Carvacrol from the whole oregano plant, and then manipulate that Carvacrol into a medication. That's how, and then we'll get a drug study. Just saying, it's kind of a bummer. Moving on. So here is another article: inhibition of enteric parasites by emulsified oil of oregano in vivo. So again, in vivo, not in a clinical trial, not in the human population. In vivo. Sorry, guys. In vitro is not in a human population. In vivo is. And this was people taking 6 weeks of supplementation with 600 milligrams emulsified oil of oregano daily, and they displayed a decrease in enteric parasites. So that kind of, this small study confirmed some parasite activity. We need more of these. And you can see this was done back in, or at least the article is back in May 2000. Here's another one, Carvacrol and Human Health, a comprehensive review. Just another place that I was able to get a little bit of information. All right, so my personal notes on this. So when I say oil of oregano, and I probably even need to change this because from all of the research that I did, I know, and when I'm completing my monograph, just for you guys, awareness, if you want to do this too, I don't start top to the bottom. As I'm doing my research, I will go in and I'll add different pieces. So I added this at the beginning, and I probably need to start saying infused oregano oil because that's different than essential oil. And oil of oregano often is used to infer that you have an essential oil that's been diluted into a carrier oil. I hope that makes sense. But I like to use infused oregano oil in drops for treating a virus on a short-term basis. Maybe 3 to 5 days, but to be honest, I have personally never taken it beyond that. When I got really sick, it was the only thing that seemed to help me turn the corner. And also, it's incredibly helpful in an antifungal foot bath to treat toenail fungus or athlete's foot. I have several people's feedback on that. So I know for a fact that that's been very useful and helpful. You could also combine that with tea tree oil for topical use, because tea tree oil you can use straight on a toenail fungus, but you can also create a separate, dropper with just a little bit of oregano. Too much oregano topically on the skin can be irritating, so keep that in mind. In tea form, I prefer the oregano flowers. They're milder than oregano leaves. They still retain the antiviral properties. It's not as strong, but I do prefer it that way. All right. How's everybody feeling? Can you drop me a 1 in the chat if this information is helpful? And I'm going to move on to the book review right now. Okay, let me stop sharing. And yay, I didn't freeze up. Happy about that. All right. Awesome. Thank you for your response, everybody. I'll bet you everybody is probably lagging behind from commercials. Apologies about that. I put it on conservative use of commercials, but all right. So let's chat about this book for a minute. I was trying to look for a book on oregano. Like I mentioned, I looked at all of my herb books and I found very little information on oregano, which is why you saw all of those research trials and things, because I was really looking. I wanted to do a deep dive and I was just really curious. So in this book here, I'm going to give you, and we're right on time. We've got like 10 minutes. I'm going to go through this and kind of tell you what the topics are all about. So when it says oil of oregano in this book, I think the maker of this sold it or something. However, they give great information. They talk about its natural antiseptic use, and they talk about experiences where people have used it. They talk about the constituents. They talk about one of the first things is, oh man, I don't know if you can you see? That bright light. Fungal infection, the bane of humanity. And it goes on to talk about fungus. It's a type of microbe known as a saprophyte, meaning it lives off of dead or dying tissues. And then it talks about the different kinds of fungus and how they can, take over your toe or your foot or whatever. But there's also oral fungus, yeast is fungus, a lot of different things. So it can treat all of those things. All right, let me get through and I'll tell you all. It mentions in terms of the vitamins and mineral content, it talks about the zinc content being incredibly high. See, I couldn't find that necessarily level of detail. Oregano contains about 4 milligrams per 100 grams. It's a richer source of this mineral than sardines, salmon, cheese, peanut butter, and whole grains. So that's the kind of level of detail that you get in here. Contains a considerable amount of potassium. And by the way, if anybody, do your research on potassium. It's pretty fascinating. Hey, Michelle, thanks for coming. I picked an armful of oregano today. Congratulations. I don't know if you've seen my oregano video yet, but I just did a video on 7 different things that I made with oregano. I hope you find that helpful. According to the USDA, oregano offers nearly 1,700 milligrams of potassium per 100 grams. Like nobody's going to have 100 grams, but just kind of goes to show you a small amount and you're still getting a good little chunk. Which places it above other commonly touted sources, including orange juice, bananas, apricots, dates, and dark green leafy vegetables. So it has that kind of information in here. It talks about the chemistry of oregano oil. So it talks about your phenols. I'm looking to see if there's anything here that's worth sharing with you guys. Oh, yeah. Talks about how carvacrol and thymol, which are the main phenols, and how those are natural antiseptics. And it talks about terpenes. Okay. Anybody want to know more about terpenes? I do. So you're going to go along with me for the ride. They are long-chain hydrocarbons, which are found in a wide variety of plant oils. Short-chain hydrocarbons are exceedingly common in nature, but the majority have no therapeutic use. An example is benzene, a gasoline component, which has 6 carbons in its molecule. In contrast, terpenes contain at least 10 carbon atoms, and this long chain is responsible for their aggressive chemical properties. Terpenes are highly soluble in fatty substances. In other words, they aggressively penetrate into fats. That includes the fatty membranes of living cells. Remember, we were talking about viruses before and how they kill them dead. So this is why terpene-rich oils make excellent massage oils. Okay. Terpenes are the primary active ingredients of citrus oils. For instance, limonene is a potent antiviral terpene found in lemon oil. Terpenes are potent antiseptic, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory agents. Certain terpenes act as natural anesthetics, which means they are capable of halting pain, which is interesting. And there is a little bit of shared relationship in properties between oregano and marjoram, which remember is one of its lookalikes. And that's interesting to me because in a pain oil that I use, one of the essential oils I add to the pain oil is oil of marjoram. So that's interesting to me. It must be that it's that terpene content that helps with that. All right, moving on. So it goes through all that stuff and you see the level of detail. I appreciate that level of detail. Dosages. Absolutely. Let me circle back to there. I did talk about that, but maybe I went through it a little high. So if you're talking about an infused tea, it's 1 to 2 teaspoons. You steep it for 10 to 15 minutes. And the literature suggests that you could take that up to 2 to 3 times daily. Watch for digestive discomfort. Make sure you're not allergic to it. Check with, okay, disclaimer again. Make sure this is not meant to diagnose, treat, or cure anything. So check with your healthcare provider, blah, 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 all that I said at the beginning. I prefer, as far as a tea goes, I do prefer the flowers, but I did in research see that not everybody agrees with me. Parasites are 600 milligrams, 1/4. Don't do that. Don't do a 1/4 teaspoon. If you make the infused oil yourself, what I can share with you is that I know somebody that did a dropper full, and they said their digestive system was very uncomfortable. They were kind of feeling like they had an uh-oh moment, and they shouldn't have done that. I would personally say, even if you're infusing the oil, that you should be taking it in drops. Okay. And of course, do your own research, but for anti-parasitic activity, I'd say 5 drops, see how you feel, 10 drops, and then, maybe next time try 10 drops. And I would suggest that in the evening before bed. That's how I've done it. Yes, absolutely. 1/4 teaspoon's too much. Yeah, you don't want to, like, anything you put in your body is going to have to be filtered through your liver and your kidneys. And since we know that this is like for digestive health, that tells us it's going to go through our liver. And I don't know, whoever's asking a question like this, I'm hesitant to say anything too much of anything because I don't know their health history. You absolutely do not want to take oregano with Tylenol because Tylenol is hepatotoxic, meaning it's toxic to your liver. So you don't want to do that. Oh, if you're eating it every day through your cooking, yeah, if you're eating it every day through your cooking, you're fine. I mean, Italians eat it every day through their cooking. I mean, assuming Italians just eat Italian, I'm sure they eat other stuff, but you get my drift. You absolutely can incorporate it into your food. But then you're thinking like a quarter teaspoon, sprinkle it over a salad or something. I got you, and not infusing it. Good for you, Michelle. That's awesome. I mean, I haven't seen anywhere you can't sprinkle it over your food. It's going to hit it's a little bit different than infusing it into an oil and pulling all those properties out. So the oregano that we've been chatting about is specific to Origanum vulgare. I would imagine, and this is like rule of thumb, kind of like with yarrow, you know how there's a lot of different kinds of yarrow. Your other kinds of oregano, can you read my comment about my book? Hold on. Let me go find it. Thank you for asking, Anne, because okay, hold on. So let me answer her question, then we'll talk more about your comment. I would imagine that is that the common one? Okay, thanks, Tamara. Because the other oreganos are probably not necessarily going to have the same degree of potency. And they might have other things going on with them. I haven't looked at them, so I'm not sure. Okay. Good questions, guys. Thank you. I have the Beekeeper's Apothecary book by Kaylee Richardson. There is oregano info in it. Cough, oxygen, antimicrobial syrup, and warming oxymel in it. Oh, very cool. And that's the Beekeeper's Apothecary book. I'm writing that down. Hear that, everybody? Another good resource. Because for oregano, it's hard to find them. Where they're not just, maybe a paragraph or two, like less than a page or something. Okay. Back to my little review. There's some information here. Well, you can't see anyways. I guess I won't try that. On using it for acne. If anybody has any problems with acne. Wow. And it really goes into the weeds. It's kind of nice. So it's effective for treating that. I mean, you could make like a scrub. You could do like I infused in my video with the oregano. I infused some vinegar. That would make like a wonderful, topical antiseptic for acne. Animal bites is listed. And there's a treatment protocol that's presented with this too, okay? So like, for example, animal bites, treatment protocol, it says wash the wound, seek medical attention if necessary, thoroughly saturate the puncture site or open wound with the oil, repeat application several times a day. And then it also suggests vitamin C, 500 milligrams twice a day, vitamin E, 400 IUs twice a day, vitamin A. I mean, it gives you a whole protocol. Arthritis, rubbing the oil of oregano on affected joints in the morning and before bedtime. It is great for as an anti-itch therapy, you guys. My husband, he had something bite him and it was itching and itching and itching. And I put this on there and it never itched again. Literally never itched again. Asthma. There's a note in here on asthma. About, using it on the chest of somebody during an asthma attack. But remember, remember what I read before, it's contraindicated for people with sensitive lungs and asthma to do an inhalation. So you don't want to do that. We talked about athlete's foot. It mentions it for bad breath. Remember, it could be great as like a mouthwash or something. Bed sores and ulcerations. We live the life we live with the assumption that we're always going to have a doctor and a hospital at our disposal. And I mean, we probably will. But you just never know. You never know. What if What if it was during a storm? What if you had to do something? It's good to know some ways to treat things in that way. In the meantime, while you're waiting to get to a doctor or something. It talks about bladder infections. It provides a treatment protocol for that. Boils, bruises, burns, bursitis, cellulitis. That's serious, by the way. Go to the hospital if you have cellulitis. Cold sores, which I love because, you can include it. I love lemon balm for a lip balm for cold sores. And you can include it and incorporate oregano into your lip balm because lemon balm has that lysine, that's effective on cold sores. Is oregano a good candidate for a tincture? No. I would have to say, Michelle, you could ask somebody else and they might say yes. But I was reading some information and I saw a comment from Rosemary Gladstar. She doesn't like it as a tincture either. I just feel like it's so strong. And the tincture just kind of, it's like even stronger, I don't like that. I don't like it. We want strong, but not like, knock us over kind of thing. So I'd say no as a tincture, but that's just me. I'm not making decisions for anybody else. You can do your research and see how you feel about that. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's going to disagree with me. So here it specifically calls out Cryptosporidium, which is a parasitic infection. Dandruff, diaper rash, diarrhea, ear infections. I don't know about ear infections, guys. Be careful with anything you stick in your ear. Eczema, Giardia, which is another parasite. Frostbite and frostburn because it's so warming. And it gives a treatment protocol with all of these. I'm hurrying. I think we're going over a little bit. Thank you all for hanging in there with me. I'm almost done. Gum disease. So remember, in your mouth, on your feet. Anybody got questions? I like to incorporate it every day. If it's too strong, then I can't take it every day. That's right. You'll have digestive discomfort. Impetigo, if you got little kids, sometimes that goes around the schools. Irritable bowel syndrome, leg cramps, using it topically. So this book's going to have stuff about topical use and it's going to have stuff about internal use. And I could go on and on, but I don't know. You guys might be tired of hearing me. Venomous bites, which is interesting. I have an extra, so we need to give this away. Bear with me while I go get the thing. I'm probably going to freeze up looking goofy, so bear with me. Hold on. Gotta share my screen first, I think. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Let me find it first. I need the StreamYard. Here it is. Yay. Okay. Hold on. I should have done this ahead of time. I'm sorry. I'll be better next time. Copy link. Okay. Oh, I didn't even need to go look for it. It knows what I'm doing. All right, let me share my screen real quick. Get out of this. Okay. Oh, Anne, thank you so much for becoming a member. I love that. Reminder, all of my members, if you're here or you're catching the replay, email me because I'm going to send you my monograph. I'll be sending that to you via email. Okay, what should we do? We need to come up with a word. Well, of course, let's do oregano. Hashtag oregano, everybody. That's what you want to put. Aw, that's okay, Anne. Thank you for coming back and checking on that. I love my members. Okay, do you guys see hashtag oregano? Hey, Jamie. Yay. Welcome, new members. Oh, I need to give you, I'll give you my email. Here, I'll drop it here in the chat. Y'all do hashtag Oregano. I'm going to give you my email and then email me. Whoopsie. There you go. That's my email. All my members email me, and I will be sharing with you my oregano monograph. And I love that. I think I'm going to keep doing that in the future when I go through monographs here, because it gives me a way to give back to you guys. And I do spend a lot of time on these monographs. I have future ideas for the monographs. I have a couple different book ideas that I'm thinking of. And they're going to come in handy. All right, we've got 12 people here. I'm betting some folks are on TV. I'm seeing 5 entries. 2, 3, 4, 5. Anybody else want to be in the drawing for the book, The Cure is in the Cupboard? I'm going to wait just another minute in case that people are getting held up because of the commercials. Aw, thank you, Jamie. I'm a researcher, it's what we do. That's what I do for a living. And I'm telling you, it's almost a personality flaw, to be honest. I have to research everything. But I am just loving my herbal journey and researching everything. And I've been doing it for years, and now really just buckling down with myself. Is anybody, tell me while we're waiting for other folks that might be in commercials to come back and enter hashtag oregano, is there anybody that's got any herbal plans for the next week? Anything y'all are going to be making or harvesting? I've got to get out there. I have a huge, well, I mean, it's not like huge, but I think it's pretty darn big. Like, it's bigger than my table that I'm sitting at, bed of echinacea that needs to be harvested. The flowers are like perfect timing, so I need to do that. Herbing is a wonderful lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle, it's like, it's what we drink in our coffee. It's what coffee we drink, because I call it coffee, but it's actually, roasted dandelion root, chicory root, red rooibos, reishi, and chaga. It's what we put on our face, right? Which I need to make new face oil. That's awesome, Jamie. If it's the book that I shared, you're going to love it. I'm making plantain infusion right now. Oh, awesome. Yes, in the herbal world, there is such wonderful people. It feels like the herbs ground us. We're all like, it feels like everybody's grounded. Yep, get out there and harvest that oregano and make some stuff. Or at least just dry it out to cook with. Nancy said, I'm trying to let my lemon balm get taller and have the flowers, but it's so awesome. I keep harvesting every other day. Well, hey, I'm not knocking that either, Anne, because sometimes my lemon balm goes to flower before, and I think I've had enough, and then I don't have enough, and it's all gone to flower on me, and yeah, that's kind of a bummer. My china went out. Herbs went in. Oh, there. It took me a minute to realize what you meant, and I was thinking dishes. Internet. That was a good one. Oh, and the thistle's ready. Yeah. And my marshmallow. Like, I think I can wait more on the marshmallow roots, but the marshmallow flowers are all there. All right, guys, we got 5. Maybe we just got, I could have people watching from TV and they just can't be a part of the giveaway. So I'm sorry to anybody who isn't able to be a part of the giveaway and hasn't had a chance to put hashtag oregano. Picking holy basil, and my holy basil's doing good too. It's like, I don't know, this tall. It's just a little pot of it, but I'm so excited. Homegrown herbs are so much better. All right, guys, here we go. Hey, everybody here has a 20% chance to win. So I'm going to go ahead and hit draw, and we're going to do this drawing. Good luck, everyone. And I'm saying good luck and I'm looking at the phone because that's where I see you guys. And the winner is Ann Philbeck. Congratulations, Ann. Woohoo. Okay, I am going to be mailing this to you. And I know that I've sent you stuff before, but I don't save anybody's addresses. So, and I do that, like for a reason. I don't know that anybody wants me to save their address. So make sure that that you email me your address and I'll get this book to you out this week. You're going to love it. Love this book. Anyone else? You can look into this book. You could probably find it on eBay or Amazon for real cheap. It's not expensive. All right. Anything else? I think I remembered everything. Thank you all so much for coming. This is so much more fun when you're here. Next week, my plan is we are going to continue talking about some herbs that have anti-parasitic qualities, even though that's not what I'm highlighting when I'm, sharing out the title of the live and everything, because there's so much more than that. But I do want to talk about mugwort because I have been harvesting mugwort all season, and I think it would be great for me to do a monograph on the mugwort. So that's coming up next. How often? I am live every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central, unless something comes up and I have to shift to that time frame. But I'll be here next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central. And I hope to see you all there. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. And like I always say on my videos, I know things get real rough out here in this crazy world, but y'all just do what you can and keep your joy, folks. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.